Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a mystery that is literally buried under miles of solid ice. It's a discovery so massive and, honestly, so completely unexpected that scientists consider reaching it to be on par with walking on the moon. We're talking about a secret hidden in Antarctica that has the potential to rewrite human history, alter our understanding of biology, and totally redefine our place in the universe. I'm not exaggerating here. What they found down there is absolutely going to blow your mind. Okay, let's dive into this. When you picture Antarctica, you probably think of a plain, flat, unforgiving sheet of white ice, right? Well, when scientists look through that ice using advanced radar, they don't see flat ground. They see a hidden world. We're talking about mountains as massive as the Himalayas, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, and most shockingly, over 400 secret liquid lakes. But before we can really understand the miracle of what's hiding in those deep waters, we have to understand just how violently protective the ice above it really is. Section 1. Antarctica's Deadly Ice, the 1912 Mawson Tragedy. To really grasp the stakes of this deep ice mystery, we gotta rewind to 1912. The explorer Douglas Mawson and his two companions, Ninnis and Mertz, were out mapping the continent. Suddenly, without any warning, the supposedly solid ground just opened up. Ninnis fell into a pitch-black 100-foot-deep crevasse, taking their sled, their food, and their vital supplies right down with him. Mawson and Mertz were completely stranded. Desperate and starving, they were actually forced to eat their weakest sled dogs, but they were totally unaware that dog liver contains incredibly toxic levels of vitamin A. The poisoning drove Mertz insane, and he soon died. Mawson was left completely alone. He walked 160 kilometers across the ice. His physical deterioration was so severe that the skin on the soles of his feet peeled off completely, and he literally had to strap it back onto his feet just to keep walking. That is the brutal, impenetrable reality of the Antarctic surface. Section 2. Lakes trapped under pressure, liquid water at sub-zero temperatures. So how does this deadly, frozen surface connect to our central mystery? Well, back in the 1960s, scientists flying radar planes over this ice started getting strange, smooth signals bouncing back from miles below. It looked like liquid water, but how on earth could water exist in liquid form 4 kilometers beneath freezing ice? The answer is the subglacial liquid water paradox. That incredibly thick sheet of ice actually acts like a giant thermal blanket, trapping the Earth's natural geothermal heat. At the same time, the weight of billions of tons of ice creates such extreme pressure that the freezing point of water drops. The result? Vast oceans of liquid water, surviving in pure darkness, trapped at sub-zero temperatures and entirely untouched by the outside world for up to 15 million years. Section 3. The Three-Nation Drilling Race, a Cold War for a 15-million-year-old ecosystem. And this brilliantly illustrates the geopolitical race that kicked into high gear in the 1990s. The ultimate prize wasn't land, it was access to these ancient, pristine ecosystems. But there was a massive catch. If you introduce even a single modern surface bacterium into a 15-million-year-old isolated lake, you destroy the entire ecosystem instantly. Just think about the vastly different approaches they took. Russia aimed for the deepest, Lake Vostok, using a highly controversial mix of kerosene and jet fuel to keep their drill hole from freezing. The UK targeted Lake Ellsworth with a cleaner hot water method. And the United States? They went for Lake Whillans, a shallower target but employed absolute NASA-level sterilization protocols. Section 4. The Russian Failure, Contaminating the Pristine. So Russia had actually been drilling at their Vostok station since the 1970s, long before they even knew this massive lake was down there. As they got closer to the water, they faced a serious problem. The 4-kilometer-deep hole just kept freezing shut. Their solution? Pouring in 60 tons of toxic jet fuel, a mix of kerosene and freon. The international scientific community begged them to stop for a decade, warning them that they were about to drop 60 tons of pure poison into a pristine, ancient ecosystem. But Russia just ignored the warnings and pushed through. In 2012, their drill finally breached Lake Vostok. But remember that immense pressure we talked about earlier? The moment the seal was broken, 15-million-year-old water shot up the drill hole like a geyser, violently mixing with the 60 tons of jet fuel and shooting 40 meters into the air. The Russians initially celebrated, right? They claimed they found new bacteria in the samples, but lab tests later proved the bacteria was just contamination from their own kerosene. Decades of work and incredible funding were completely ruined, all because their method fundamentally destroyed the sample. Section 5. The British Heartbreak, defeated by 2 meters. If the Russian attempt was a story of hubris, the British attempt was just, well, pure heartbreak. I mean, they spent 16 years and $12 million planning a perfectly clean hot water drill. The strategy was brilliant. Drill 2 parallel holes down to 300 meters, connect them to create a clean water circulation loop, and then push the main hole down 3 kilometers to Lake Ellsworth. On Christmas Eve in 2012, they were executing the very first crucial step. The team worked tirelessly for 40 hours straight in the freezing cold to connect those 2 initial holes. They were so incredibly close. Just 2 meters separated the shafts. But in their desperate push to carve out those final 2 meters, they burned through their surface fuel reserves. They literally ran out of gas, just 2 meters from the finish line. The entire $12 million project had to be abandoned on the spot. Section 6. The U.S. Success, Project Wizard. And that brings us to the American effort, known as Project Wizard. A team of 13 top scientists, flanked by experts from NASA's Space Science Program, aimed for Lake Whillans. They looked at the failures of Russia and the UK and decided to treat this not like a drilling operation on Earth, but like a literal mission to Mars. Listen to these steps. Every single piece of equipment was scrubbed with hydrogen peroxide. It was all sealed in sterile bags. The water used for drilling was passed through extreme multi-stage filters, and everything was relentlessly blasted with UV light to ensure not a single surface bacterium survived. And it worked. On December 21, 2013, this hyper-clean drill successfully and cleanly breached Lake Whillans. Section 7. Life in the Dark, Surviving Without the Sun. So the crucial point is what they've actually found when they finally pulled that pristine water up and put it under a microscope. You guys, it was moving. They discovered living bacteria and archaea thriving at negative 0.5 degrees Celsius. These organisms have been completely cut off from the surface for millions of years. There is absolutely no sunlight down there for photosynthesis. There's no fresh air, no oxygen supply whatsoever. So how on earth do they live? Through a mind-bending process called chemosynthesis. They literally survive by eating methane gas that slowly leaks out of the bedrock. These microscopic survivors trace their lineage back further than the dinosaurs, clinging to life in the absolute dark, acting as a living time capsule of an ancient Earth. Section 8. Rehearsal for Outer Space, the Ultimate Twist. Now, what's really interesting here is the grand twist to this entire story. Project Wizard and this wild international race weren't just about exploring Antarctica. Think about this comparison. On one hand, you have Earth's subglacial lakes, miles of thick ice on top and a pitch-black liquid ocean below. And on the other hand, you have Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus. They shared the exact same structural profile, miles of frozen ice shielding deep, dark liquid oceans. NASA's involvement wasn't some coincidence. The entire Antarctic drilling project was a literal rehearsal. They were testing the sterile drilling technology they're one day going to use to pierce the ice of those distant moons, proving once and for all that life doesn't actually need sunlight to survive, it just needs water, pressure, and minerals. Which leaves us with this final, honestly awe-inspiring thought. This incredible struggle, the lives lost, the fortunes spent, the decades of technological innovation, it was all just to reach and properly sample a single lake. But as we learned right at the beginning, there are over 400 of these subglacial lakes hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. If we found a sunless, ancient, methane-eating ecosystem surviving in just one, what in the world is hiding in the other 399?